Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry it's been so long, but with having a newborn, I've been so busy. I haven't had a lot of time for filming. Speaking of Levi, he is right back there in his crib. Sounds like he might be waking up. But I wanted to go ahead and share my birth story with you guys. Hopefully this keeps him calm so I can go ahead and share my story with you guys. He was a month old the 15th of August, so he was born July 15th. I went into labor on July 13th. It's kind of hard to say if it was July 13th or July 12th that I went into labor, because July 12th I had contractions the whole night. It was really hard to sleep. They were, well actually no, those ones weren't hard to sleep through. I actually slept through most of those. Some of them woke me up, but for the most part I was able to sleep through them. But they were probably timeable, but I didn't bother timing them because they weren't extremely painful. And then about 3 in the morning on the 13th, I believe, they stopped. And I'm getting my dates mixed up because he was born on the 15th, we went to the hospital on the 14th, so it would have been the 13th, the night of the 13th that I was having contractions and they stopped, all that jazz. Anyways, they ended up stopping and went about my day, and they didn't so much stop as they just got really irregular and they're just coming whenever. So they went from being like almost timeable to like whatever. So that evening of the 14th, when my husband got home from work, we decided to go walking around the downtown area because he wanted to go Pokemon hunting and I wanted to see if I could get this baby out of me. So we went walking about 5:30, and about 5:30, I think it was about 5:30 or so, because he was working from home or from town that day. So I think we got down on that downtown area around 5, because I started having contractions at about 5:30 and they were timeable. And they just consistently got closer together and more painful. So we walked around downtown for maybe an hour or so. I think by the time we got home it was about 7 o'clock in the evening. So, sorry, I'm looking at him because he's so cute. And I want to know what he's doing. Yawning right now currently. Anyways, we went home, I took a shower, and we had dinner, and we just relaxed. And we went to bed. I continued to have contractions. They continued to get closer and closer together until they were finally timeable. And we went to the hospital at about 11 that evening. And once we got admitted into the hospital, first off, we had to go through the emergency room doors to get called up to the birthing center. And I just remember finding it kind of embarrassing to be having contractions in the hospital, like, lobby for the ER, and like all these people watching me knowing I'm in labor, and it's just like, I don't like looking weak in front of other people, and I just found it kind of embarrassing, but it was what it was and it had to be done. And as the night progressed, I didn't care who seen me doing what, I just wanted him out. Anyways, we got him upstairs, we get admitted into the birthing center, and they get us set up in a birthing room, and then they check me, and I was already 5 centimeters dilated. My nurse was extremely surprised that, me being a first-time mom and this being my first delivery, that I was able to labor at home for as long as I did without coming in to get checked or anything until I was 5 centimeters. So she was really surprised, and she kept like telling everybody that came in the room, like any nurses or any doctors that came into the room, and she'd be like, oh, she labored until 5 centimeters at home without coming in and getting checked and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't know why it was such a big deal to her, but whatever. They thought things were going to go really quickly that night when I got there. So they went ahead and they called the on-call doctor, which happened to be a male, which made me kind of uncomfortable. I have a female gynecologist. Nothing against male gynecologists. It's just, I don't know. I'm married and it just seems wrong. I know it's non-sexual. By all means, it is non-sexual. But it just feels wrong to have a male seeing me that's not my husband. if that makes any sense to anybody. So I was kind of uncomfortable with it, but I'm not entirely sure where I left off at because somebody needed fed and a diaper change. Oh, so what I was saying was that they had to call in a male doctor, and I felt a little uncomfortable with that just because they got married, and I don't know, it just seemed wrong. But anyways, he came in and broke my water, which I found a little strange because when I was in there, the nurse kept asking me if I wanted an epidural, and I was really uncertain about it. I was really back and forth on wanting one. Big part of me really just wanted to do it all on my own. So she kept telling me, she's like, well, you dilated this far on your own. She's like, the worst part of it is between dilating from 8 to 9. She's like, you know, I think you can totally do it on your own without medication, or at least without the epidural. I was getting Tylenol I think it was every 4 hours to take the edge off, but otherwise I wasn't taking anything else. And she told me that I probably wasn't in a lot of pain because my water hadn't broke yet, and she said that was really giving me a buffer. Really what my contractions felt like was, you know, when you have to go to the bathroom really bad, you have to pee so bad, like your bladder hurts. That's exactly how my contractions felt, only like every so many minutes. And as soon as like a contraction would ease up, it would be like the instant relief you get when like you feel like your bladder's gonna pop and you're holding it really tight, and then like it like eases up on you, like you still have to pee, but it like eases up on you, and it's like, oh good, I can like make it to a bathroom now. It was that feeling, only I was getting it like every couple of minutes, and they were letting me get up and go to the bathroom to pee, but let's be honest, there wasn't a whole lot coming out because that was just how my contractions felt. So anyways, yeah, this doctor came in and he broke my water at 8, and I was really afraid that like things were going to get extremely painful, but it didn't. It continued being the same, and everything continued as normal, but my labor did end up stalling out at 9 centimeters, and it took forever to get that last part dilated. The majority, at first I was like able to get up and go to the bathroom, and I was wanting to get up and walk around for my labor, and I had to lay in bed for like the first 30 minutes I think, so that they could get a good read on the baby and see what all he's doing. And then after that, my nurse was like, yeah, you'll be able to get up and move around. Well, it turns out his heart rate kept dropping, so I had to be put on oxygen, and the oxygen was helping. It was elevating his heart rate, but that meant I had to stay in bed. They wouldn't let me up and walk. So I was in bed from 11 that evening until the shift changed at like 7 or 8 that next morning, and they let me up to go to the bathroom, and that was it. My nurse would not let me out of bed. And as I said, I stalled out my contractions at 9 a.m. Everything just kind of stopped. Oh, the contractions were still coming, but the contractions had kind of eased up and stopped in the dilation. It kind of stopped at 9. So my actual doctor got there at like 8:30 or 9. Well, got into my room at 8:30 or 9, and checked me, and I was still stopped at 9. And she started talking about needing to put me on Pitocin to jumpstart things, get things going again. And my nurse, she's like, well, I think you can get up and walk around. So I don't know what the big difference was, because literally like 10 minutes before my new nurse came in, or maybe 20, I was talking to my old nurse and asking her, can I get up and walk around? And she's like, no, you have to stay in bed. And then we get a shift change, and my new nurse was like, no, I think you're fine, you can get up and walk around. So I don't know what the change was in that like 10 or 20 minutes, but they let me get up and walk around. They got me a birthing ball, which I originally asked for a birthing ball, and my first nurse told me that they didn't have one available. And then I asked my new nurse, and she's like, oh yeah, there's one in the closet. And there had been one in my room the entire time. Not that it mattered, because my first nurse wouldn't let me out of bed, but it was like, you know, one of those things. I was like, really? Yeah. So anyways, they let me get up. My nurse talked to my doctor, and like right there in front of me, and she's like, well, I think we can get her going if we let her get up and walk around. So before we put her on Pitocin, let's let her move around. So they had me up. I was walking a little bit. I got on the birthing ball, which was the most comfortable position. It also caused really intense contractions. So my husband was sitting on the bed in front of me, like holding my hand, and I was like gripping his legs or his hands or whatever. whenever I'd have a bad contraction, and it got my contractions coming really quick, and they thought that would get me dilated. So they let me labor like that for, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour. Really, the whole time frame is kind of a blur. When you're in labor, the last thing you're concerned about is what time it is. So they let me labor like that for a while, and then they got me in bed and checked me, and I still hadn't dilated anymore. I was still stuck at a 9. So they went ahead and gave me the Pitocin to get me at a 10, and they let me get back on the birthing ball. So we did that for a while, and then I got back into bed, and they said it was time to push. So I ended up pushing for an hour, and then my doctor came in and checked me, and there wasn't much progress. I forget what exactly she said I was having a hard time getting him past. I think there's some kind of a bone in there, and I don't remember, pubic bone, or I don't think that's right. I don't remember what it was. Also, I didn't fully thin out, so while I was laboring, my nurse was sticking both her hands inside of me and pulling my vagina apart, trying to help get his head past that part of my cervix that hadn't fully dilated, and not fully dilated, but that hadn't fully thinned out. I was fully dilated, but I wasn't fully thinned out. And his head was essentially stuck in the birth canal, is what it came down to. So my doctor came in and checked me, seen there hadn't been a lot of progress, that he was kind of stuck, and that I obviously hadn't fully thinned out. She was with me for a few pushes. She did the whole hand thing up there, trying to pull things apart with no avail. And so she said that she'd let me push for another 2 hours, and then we would have to talk about possibly using forceps or a suction or something. And I said, okay, whatever. Well, it's not exactly what I said, but I was like, okay. So she leaves, and I told my nurse, I was like, if it's going to be a while longer, can I go ahead and get the epidural, because I'm in a lot of pain and I just can't continue doing it. And it's not so much that, I hate to say there's a lot of pain, because really, it wasn't so much pain. I mean, it was uncomfortable, don't get me wrong. It was uncomfortable, and when I was having the really hard contractions on the birthing ball, I was like crying, because it was so painful. It wasn't, I hate to say it's so painful, but it's like, the whole your bladder feeling is going to pop feeling, it's uncomfortable and annoying, and it is a little painful, but like on a pain scale, you'd probably rate it at like a 1, but it's not something you deal with long term. You typically either wet yourself or get to a bathroom. But having that back to back for hours, it got to the point where it's like I couldn't take it anymore. It was driving me crazy. The constant feeling of needing to go pee, the constant feeling of my bladder was going to burst. It was really uncomfortable, and so I was like, I can't take this for another 2 hours. So I went ahead and got the epidural. Surprising, because I didn't think they would give it to me, because they said that I couldn't get it past a 9, but they gave it to me, and I regretted it. I wish I had not gotten the epidural. When they came in to do my epidural, they said that my bones were really compacted. Well, it's what the lady told me who was doing my epidural, which isn't surprising, because when I was in high school, I messed up my back. I never went to the doctor and got like checked out to know exactly what it was that was wrong with it, because I was in sports, and I knew that if I had thrown my back out like my dad thought I did, or slipped a disc or something, I knew that I would have been out for the season, and it was my senior year, and there was no way that I was going to give up winter guard. There was no way I wasn't going to do that. So I just suffered through the pain, and it took a long time for my back to heal, and I still have issues with it every now and then. But the lower bones in my back, where they put the epidural, a lot of times they feel like they're just compact. They feel like they're like squished together. So when she said that my bones down there were compacted, it wasn't that surprising to me. But that made it hard for her to get the epidural in. And essentially what ended up happening was my whole left side went numb, and I'll put quotations around that because I wouldn't necessarily call that numb. But it went numb, and then the right side mostly went numb except for my right hip. And why I put quotations around the numb part is that I could still feel everything. It more dulled the pain than got rid of it, because I still felt everything. I still felt the contractions. I could still move my feet. I wanted to get up and walk, and they're like, you can't do that with the epidural, and you can't get up and walk. But if they'd have let me, I could have got up and walked. Like, I could feel my feet, move everything. And again, it really just dulled the pain. It didn't completely take it away. And then my right hip ended up getting a hot spot in it. It was like everything that I was feeling, all the intense feelings I was having that was throughout my whole body from the contractions was now all like localized in my hip, which just, it was awful. It was so horrible. Like, I would take labor pains over that hot spot in my hip any day. That was just like, oh my gosh, that was awful. It just made things awful. And so I pushed for a little while after the epidural with having that hot spot, but it wouldn't go away. And so I finally asked if there was anything I could have for my hip, and they gave me some kind of a painkiller through my IV that originally I was told I couldn't have that past 7 centimeters dilated, but my nurse went ahead and gave it to me. And it, again, did nothing for the pain, but it made me like so tired. And by this point I had been up for, I don't know, this was probably around noon when I got my first dose of that in the IV. I would think it was probably around noonish. And I'd been up since the day before, because I had contractions that night, but the night before. And I slept through a lot of it, like I said, but some of them woke me up, and then I was awake the whole day, and then I was awake the whole night, and then, you know, here it is noon the next day on the 15th. So I was already tired, and then they gave me this medication that was supposed to ease the pain, and it just made me exhausted. So I started falling asleep between contractions. Still had all the pain in my hip, and could still feel some pain, like, from my contractions. Yeah, wasn't a fun time. And then 3 hours finally rolled around, and my doctor came in and checked me, and she's like, there's still no progress, which they all kept telling me I was pushing correctly, and I knew I was pushing correctly because they kept saying, push like you're gonna poop. And guess what I was doing? Yeah. Don't eat hamburger helper before you go into have labor. Just, you know, throwing that out there. Anyways, yeah, so I was definitely pushing correctly. And I know everybody's like, if you poop on the operating table, if you poop on the delivery table, like, you're not gonna know, don't worry about it, nobody's gonna tell you. Bullshit. I mean, maybe if you get an epidural early and it really works for you, you won't know, but I knew exactly what was going on down there. So don't let people lie to you. If you shit yourself on the delivery table, you might know about it. Just throwing that out there. But you are not going to give two shits because you're on with that baby out of you. And if that means you crap yourself in front of everybody, you're not going to care. Just throwing that out there too. Anyways, after 3 hours of pushing, my doctor comes in and checks me, and she's like, you know, you're still not, and during this whole time, like, I still never fully thinned out. They were still sticking their hands inside me and trying to, like, push that part out of the way, which hurt too. And after I got my epidural, anytime I felt like I had to go to the bathroom or said I had to go pee, which I constantly felt like I had to go pee, they would put a temporary cath in me, which I couldn't really feel it after having the epidural. Like, I could feel them doing it, but it didn't hurt. But they cathed me twice during my delivery while I was on the table. But it was a cath where they put it in, drain me, and then take it out. Yeah, I hadn't had any progress in the full 3 hours. He was pretty well stuck in the birth canal. Essentially what it comes down to, it was like this part of his head made it through, like right back here had made it through, and that was it. That was all it came through. So my doctor was like, we have to talk about a C-section, which I was not expecting that. When she came in the first time and told me we may have to talk about like using forceps or some other form of delivery, like, C-section didn't cross my mind. She didn't mention it. I really thought it would be like forceps or suction or something along those lines. But she said we'd have to do a C-section. And she was kind of trying to talk me into it. But at this point, I was just ready for it to be over with. And while she was in the middle of trying to talk me into a C-section, because she knew I was, like, really against it whenever I'd come to my appointments, she kind of knew, you know, got the feeling from me and knew that I was really not interested in surgery or a lot of medications and all that other stuff. So anyways, she was trying to talk me into C-section. I just told her, if that's what we have to do, then do it. So she's like, okay. And she turns around and walks out of the room. Well, she comes back a little bit later on and is talking about how, and not a little later on, like, it was pretty quick. It was like within 5 or 10 minutes of walking out of the room, she walks back in. And during this time frame, like, my contractions were coming so hard and so quick, and, like, my body was just, like, automatically pushing. I had no control at this point. It was just, it was constant. And during my whole pushing time, I only took one break in the 3 hours through one of my contractions. And during the last 2 hours, my nurse and my husband kept asking, do you want to take a break through this one? Do you want to take a break through this one? Because, like I said, I kept falling asleep between contractions, which my contractions were like a minute apart maybe. My poor husband, he would go to sit down, and as soon as he'd sit down, I said, I'm having another one, because my husband was in the room with me, and he was holding my leg back, and my nurse was in the room with me, and she was holding a leg back, and somehow, oh no, I was holding one of my legs back, he was holding a leg back. I don't remember. That lady had her hands up in my vagina every time I pushed, but she also seemed to be pushing on my foot at the same time to help. So maybe she had one hand in there. I don't really remember. I just know she was, yeah. Anyways, yeah, I was like, no sooner that, I mean, my nurse didn't get a break and my husband didn't get a break, because no sooner that I would have a contraction and the end, I'd have another one. And I say poor them, but my nurse is getting paid, and like, I'm the one in labor, so, you know. Anyways, my doctor comes back into the room after saying I need to have contraction, I need to have a C-section, and she tells me that she's going to have to put a team together because nobody wants to do my C-section unless it's an emergency. And my heart rate was fine and his heart rate was fine, so it was not considered an emergency C-section. And they said the emergency C-section team would not do a C-section on me until 6 o'clock that evening. This is what they said. They didn't want to do it for whatever reason. So my doctor had to go put a team together, and it took her about an hour. And during that hour, it was so painful. And I ended up asking for another dose of the medication they put in my IV, because I thought at the very least if I could just sleep, if it would just knock me out and I could sleep, that'd be great, because no painkillers were really doing much for me. I don't even know if I was still taking the Tylenol at this time. I don't think I was. But they ended up giving me another dose of that, which made me sleep more, made me really out of it and sleep, I don't know. I don't really remember getting any sleep, because it was, like I said, I had contractions coming so hard and so fast that I was like, I couldn't control it. But I remember having my eyes closed and trying to sleep and having contractions like that. So, I don't know. But anyways, they ended up taking me down to get my C-section. After an hour, they finally got a team together. And I later on found out, and somebody asked me if they'd given me a medication to stop labor during that hour. And I said, no, nobody gave me anything other than that, more of that painkiller. Which again, didn't take away any pain. It just, I still had that hot spot the whole time. It just made me really tired and loopy. So anyways, they take me down for my C-section. And they go to give me the spinal block. And I was so scared because my husband didn't get to go down with me, not initially. He came in for the C-section itself, which we'll get into that in a second. But initially he wasn't allowed to come down. They kept him in my delivery room. And they were prepping me and they were doing the spinal block, and the spinal block would not take. They had to give me the spinal block 4 times to get it to take. 2 in the right side of my back and 2 in the left. And I was so scared, and my doctor was saying, if this doesn't work, we're going to have to put you under for delivery, which I was fine with. I was like, just knock me out, make it be done. Like, I don't care. I was just ready for it to be over. But they kept giving me spinal block. And finally the spinal block took on the 4th try. And it was a really weird sensation because everything just went numb. Everything just went numb, really. Like, I always thought that having a spinal block or anything like that for a C-section, like, you would be numb from, like, the waist down. No, I was, like, up to my shoulders numb. Like, everything was just numb. But then again, they gave me 4 doses. So, anyways, they finally get my husband down there. And when they came in to get my husband, they're like, they'd given him the scrubs to put on, but they didn't give him the beard guard and they didn't give him the shoes. Or maybe it was the cap he didn't get. Anyways, they go down to get him. And my husband said that when they went to get him, they were like, where's your hat? And he's like, you didn't give me one. So they give him a hat. And then they go to walk him down there. And they're like, where's your shoes? Like the booties, you know, to put over his shoes. And he's like, you didn't give me any. So by the time he gets in there, like, they were already starting the C-section on me. Like, he walked in and my doctor was like, hey there, buddy. Like, I remember hearing her say this. Hey there, little buddy. And they pulled him out within a few minutes. Like, he walked in, he touched my hand, they pulled him out, and then my husband walked with the baby over to the bed across the room to, like, do stuff with the baby for, like, cleaning him up and cutting his cord and all that stuff. During my C-section, I was in and out of it. I was, like I said, I had those original medications through my IV that was painkillers that made me exhausted. So I was, like, in and out of it the entire time. I remember it, but I don't know. Like I said, it was in and out of it. I don't know how long it really took the whole time. I think my husband said we were in there for like maybe 30 minutes to an hour tops, but it felt like it went really quickly, honestly. He was born at 5/12 on the 15th, which is yay near 24 hours after I'd gone into labor with him on the 14th. So went to labor at about 5 or 5:30 on 14th. Had him at 5:30. About 5:30 on the 14th. I went to labor. 5:12. I had him on the 15th. So 24 hours. Could be longer if you consider the 13th. The labor I had on the 13th, but I don't know. That kind of stopped. Oh, why I mentioned the catheter part when they cathed me twice during my regular delivery is that when they were gonna take me down for a C-section, the nurses were like, well, we'll just go ahead and cath you now, because when you have a C-section, you have to have a permanent cath put in. And they're like, we'll go ahead and cath you now, so it doesn't have to be done when we get down to the OR. But that hurt so bad. I felt that I was screaming in pain. Like, I hadn't screamed my whole delivery, but when they tried to put that cath in me, that permanent cath in me, the third cath, I was screaming in pain. It hurt so bad. And they kept trying to put it in, and I was in so much pain that they couldn't get it in, and they finally gave up, and they cathed me after my spinal block took in the OR, because I was in so much pain in the delivery room, like from the cath, that it wasn't happening. Also, after surgery, the next day, my doctor came in and she told me that I essentially get to heal from both having a vaginal delivery and a C-section, because I pushed for so long, and she said that I was completely black and blue and swollen in my lady parts, which would explain why it hurt so bad getting the cath put in. It was awful, and getting the cath pulled out wasn't much fun either. My doctor also told me to be thankful that this didn't happen 100 years ago, meaning that I probably would have died. Or he would have died. Or we both would have died. So that's great too. And she also said that after measuring his head, that essentially what it came down to being is that I was dilated to a 10, and his head would have been what you consider an 11, and there was no way it was getting through. So, yeah, that is my birth story. That is how he got out. I hope you guys have enjoyed. My camera is about to die, so I need to go ahead and go. Hopefully I can start doing more regular videos here for you guys. I've really missed doing YouTube. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.